Round 1 in the books. Mrs. Cat off the table. You got a quick glimpse of her. 3 days it took to complete one round of play this year. They've extended the Australian Open, of course. I got to tell you, it feels a little bit different. But let's go back to the first night of round 1 play and talk about our tournament's favorite. Of course, that's Novak Djokovic. Take a look at this list from Blogger of Tennis Instagram account in Melbourne. Bastian Fachan had said, players to push Novak Djokovic to 4+ hours in the first round of a Grand Slam. Nino Prismic, as the chair umpire in that match said. Nino Prismic. I was watching the match, and I said to myself, this guy reminds me a lot of Djokovic. I was correct. Just looking that he's from Croatia, formerly part of Yugoslavia, like Serbia. I said, okay, this guy's 18 years old. He's half of Djokovic's age. He grew up watching Djokovic and idolizing Djokovic. I was correct. I knew nothing about the guy, just like John McEnroe knows nothing about people ranked outside of the top 100. And I knew that would be the case, and it looked like he grew up watching him because his game was very similar. And I thought to myself, when I do Coffee Break Tennis, I'm going to talk about how this guy looks so much like Novak Djokovic. And then I said, you know what? Maybe don't do that, Matt. I don't want to say things too much. I don't want to sound like a broken record. Felix Auger-Aliassime was supposed to be, similar to Djokovic, mixed with a touch of Federer in there. Same with Jannik Sinner, is supposed to be very similar to Novak. I mean, obviously he is. That's why he's one of the favorites here. He's the number 2 favorite for many tennis experts and analysts out there. Who else have we compared over the years to Novak Djokovic? All kinds of people. I thought, you know what, Matt, you're going to sound like a broken record. Then I heard this. Mr. Goat enjoys watching these videos. It'll play the appropriate videos.
Like playing
soon.
myself in a mirror for a little bit, to be honest. Credit to
like playing myself in a mirror. So if Djokovic says it, I guess it's okay for me to say it here.
For an 18-year-old boy.
For an 18-year-old, looked a lot like Djokovic.
Never had a center court Grand Slam experience. It's his actually debut in the main draw on any Grand Slam. So. Just amazing. I'm very impressed. Physically, he looks very strong. He's got so much potential. He's only going to grow from here, I think, in his game and his confidence. And I definitely, as I said on the court, want to be in his corner because I think he's going to do great things.
We all should be in Nino Prismic's corner. Dude was very impressive. And the funny thing is, he grew up watching the Djokovic who had already added a lot to his game. So he's been working on a lot in his game, and it was impressive how good he was at everything. Tennis has changed. When I first started playing tennis almost 20 years ago now, there was a lot of focus on big serve, big forehand. You got to get a lot of topspin on your forehand and hit it really big. Yes, that's still, serve plus one is basically that. That's still a major part of the sport, but now there's a lot more emphasis than there was back then. Back then they used to say things like, the volley game is dead in tennis. You don't need to go to the net anymore. And I think Mrs. Cat is thinking about coming up here. And nowadays they say, oh, no, you need to learn how to volley. You need to learn when to come to the net. You need to learn how to hit a drop shot. Is what Darren Cahill was working on with Jannik Sinner a lot last year. Anyways, let's move on to this, though. Before we get into my excellent picks, many things I predicted in the draw show have come true already. And we will get to that in today's show. But first, I wanted to look at this article that someone brought to my attention, which annoyed me. I love to air the grievances and talk about things that annoy me from the tennis world here. Fake news specialist Express put that on, the Express from the UK. Australian Open fans slam the unprofessional John McEnroe's Nick Kyrgios shows him up. You might see that headline and think, whoa, what did Nick Kyrgios do? Was he's been disrespecting Boris Becker. Did he disrespect Johnny Mac? No, actually, I had to go back. I'd already seen most of these matches with different commentators, and I had to rewatch some just so I could hear the Kyrgios and McEnroe commentary and see where was all the controversy at. Anyways, of course, as usual with the Express, there was none. Let's read a little bit, though. John McEnroe has come under fire for his commentary once again, this time at the Australian Open. The retired American star has often caused controversy for admitting that he doesn't know who some of the players are or for mispronouncing their names, which we do here, right here at this show as well. McEnroe teamed up with Nick Kyrgios in the comms box for Steph Tsitsipas' first-round match on Monday, with many admitting that the 28-year-old was a better pundit. And so the reason why I say this is fake news, you see this a lot with not just tennis, you see it with politics, you see it with everything. They take an article They make an article, I should say, and they grab some tweets. And these tweets in no way represent popular opinion. You know, they're not reflective of the majority of opinions out there around the tennis world. But they make it look like this is what everyone thinks, because this small group on Twitter were very loud voicing their opinions. We're going to make this clickbait article that makes it look like everyone hates Johnny Mac, when in reality, Johnny Mac is the highest paid commentator by far. I remember some couple years ago, I saw an article. It might have been Martina Navratilova, I can't remember, but she was complaining how she might only make $100,000 for the whole trip. Maybe I might be wrong on these numbers, but I want to say somewhere in that ballpark. The whole trip to Wimbledon, all the commentaries she would do, she'd make like $100,000, something like that. Sounds pretty good to me. Sounds like a good deal to me. And free tickets to Wimbledon too. And Johnny Mac was making millions of dollars. And she was saying, that was unfair or something like that. Don't remember. It could have been somebody else. Doesn't matter who. My point is, Johnny Mac is the highest paid. And there's a reason why. And it's not because of what they're saying here. His job is not to specialize in knowing the players who are 129 in the world and how to pronounce their names correctly. Anyways, let's read some of these tweets that they put on here. The former Wimbledon finalist commentated on the Djokovic thrilling first-round clash with Dino Prismic for Eurosport on day one of the tournament. And then he was back. And I mean, how many guys are on, European broadcast television coverage, or online now, I guess everything is. And then also doing ESPN US. John McEnroe, he gets paid the big bucks because he's a legend. It's like having Fed or Nadal or Joker in I know he didn't win 20, but back then, no one even thought it was possible to win 20. No one was even trying to do something like that back then. But he did win 7 in a pretty short span of time. And, he's a legend for many reasons, and everyone around the world knows who he is, and most people have a pretty positive opinion of him. That's what he's paid for, plus he knows a lot about tennis too. Anyways, let's read a comment here. This is one of the tweets they used to make this article about the outrage over Johnny Mac, who most people I meet, they say they love Mac. He's their favorite. I think he's probably my favorite of all the commentators too. Anyways, listening to Kyrgios and John McEnroe on ESPN calling the Tsitsipas match. Thanks, Nick, for trying to correct Mac's pronunciation of Tsitsipas's name. That's not so bad. Here's another one. Enjoying Kyrgios as a commentator, only making Johnny Mac sound more amateurish and unprofessional than usual. Okay. Let's move down to some more. And the American came under fire for not knowing who Tsitsipas's opponent, Zizou Bergs. I don't know. I never heard of him before either. Not knowing who he was, the world number 129 got into the draw as a lucky loser following the withdrawal of Matteo Berrettini. McEnroe being lead announcer is making me feel insane, said Jack McClocklock. You got to give him cut him a little slack there, because who would have known that Berrettini was going to pull out last minute? I guess we could have guessed that was very possible. But Mac probably went into it thinking it was going to be Berrettini. Then it's Zizou Bergs, and he didn't do much research on him. Is it really that big of a deal? How long did Zizou Bergs last in the tournament? Here's another one, though. This is probably the best. This guy, supposedly a tennis pro, he weighed in, slamming McEnroe for being unprofessional. Let's read what this tennis pro, an American named Tyson Kwiatkowski, what did he have to say? It's insane to me that time and time again, J. McEnroe goes on air and just admits he has zero clue. This is not a British guy. He has zero clue who a player is. Today, Bergs is 120 in the world. Hey guys, I've done zero research for my job, and I'm just going to disrespect someone who's top 150 in the world at a job. All right, we know in tennis, if you're the top 150th dentist in the world, that might be pretty good. It might help you have a very successful practice that you own and operate. Maybe. But when it comes to tennis, 150 in the world doesn't get it done. You're not a superstar. You're not even really making a living yet. I think now, if you go back some years, 150 in the world means you're struggling to pay the bills and pay to travel. I think you still are, actually, at 150 in the world. Top 100 is paying better. Top 150 is even paying better than it used to. But 150 is nothing in this sport. And that's why here, we proudly, on this show, we proudly mispronounce the names of the guys who are, just teetering on the outside of the top 100 of the world. Even guys who are in the top 100. It's very difficult to make it into the top 100. It is much more difficult to stay in the top 100. So us, as tennis fans, until you prove that you can stay at the top 100 and prove that you can play and maybe even beat some top players, We will not memorize your name, and we will definitely not learn how to pronounce it. Welcome to Coffee Break Tennis. I am your host, Matt Bradshaw. Happy to be here with you today. Thank you for checking in with us. Many predictions have come true, and not just in the draw. Predictions about how that scheduling was going to work out, right? They eliminated the late night matches. Well, what do you know? On the first night, I think a match went on right after midnight. We'll get into that. We'll talk about everyone in the draw, and especially this guy. Take a look at him. Does he remind you of anybody? It says he does look like somebody from the Roland Garros account on Instagram. Speaking of one-handed backhands, look at this guy. May be his last time ever playing the Australian Open for the Frenchman, Richard Gasquet. And I guess I had to look this up because this is my favorite Gasquet story of all time. Some people, I think I've referenced it on the show before, might not remember this. But I'm going to start the show with this one in honor of Gasquet, because this is probably the coolest suspension ever. And then he turned around and didn't get suspended anyways. So this is pretty cool. Take a look. In May 2009, this is from Wikipedia, where there are never anything, nothing untrue has ever been written there at Wikipedia. The ultimate source. In May 2009, Gasquet, as some Americans say, was provisionally suspended after testing positive for Dirty Dan cocaine, La Coca, as Rafa says. Traces of the drug were found in a urine sample taken in March 2009. In July 2009, he was cleared to return to competitive tennis after a tribunal found that the cocaine entered his system through the inadvertent contamination in a nightclub. Whoa. Gasquet suggested that the cocaine entered his system after he French kissed. He is French, so that is the only way they know how to do it. After French kissing a stripper, known only by her first name, Pamela, in a Miami nightclub. The tribunal stated that the quantity of cocaine detected in Gasquet's sample was very small, about the size of a grain of salt. God bless you, Richard Gasquet. Anyways, that's one of my favorite Richard Gasquet stories of all time. Dimitrov looked very good in his match. Speaking of those beautiful one-handed backhands, Stan Wawrinka, he was so close. You know, I said he'd win. He was close, but then he was so far in that fifth set, losing to another Frenchman who French kisses strippers for sure, Manarino. Let's look at this really quick before we get into the draw or anything else. Kyrgios. I thought he was pretty good commentating. I enjoyed him with Johnny Mac very much. But look at this. Rafa Nadal injury could lead to Nick Kyrgios' retirement from Lob and Smash blog. This is an opinion piece from Lee Vowell. Get all the vowels in his name correct. There's 2 at least, or 4 if you count his first name. Anyways, I don't think this is the most convincing opinion piece, but I'll read it because it is interesting a little bit. Kyrgios said Nadal withdrawing from the Aussie Open broke his heart in a recent interview with the Daily Mail. But Kyrgios also talked about his own injury and the long rehab involved to simply try to get back on the court. Basically, where he's going with this is Kyrgios doesn't sound like a guy who really wants to get out there and is more a guy who's enjoying the good life, right? He's made a lot of money. He's still making a lot of money. He's making a lot of money from commentary. You could argue, I would argue, that Kyrgios might make more money from doing the commentary than he will from actually playing, from prize money at least, not from sponsor money. Anyways, Kyrgios told the Daily Mail, bro, like, Rafa's someone who's so important to the sport and it just takes time. It broke my heart, mate, like seeing Nadal withdraw. I've been in the gym every day, and when you're injured, people think you don't do anything. I'm really excited and doing things, plenty of things off the court. Positives, I can have a drink now. Enjoy places like the QT Rooftop, mate. Don't know what the QT Rooftop is, but it's probably somewhere at the Australian Open where you can drink. I heard at one point in the broadcast, Johnny Mac said, I wish we could get some Aperol spritzers up in here, mate. And Kyrgios was like, yeah, mate, or some beers, or maybe like, forget one, like maybe we'll have like 10. And I think Kyrgios is serious. I think he's enjoying it. I think he likes to party. We've known he likes to party. Remember he got caught in the pub? But just to finish this up, the last part of the article, and after he quotes Kyrgios, he says, this doesn't sound like a player who's ready to return to playing. Kyrgios isn't old, but he's going to be 29 years old in April. And he has missed a lot of time in his career already. Maybe he just wants to hang his racket up and get paid as a commentator. That might be a win for the player and tennis fans because Kyrgios is a fantastic commentator. All right, I liked him. But look at this. Now, maybe he's just talking junk. It's just fun to say things like this, even though deep down, you're not willing to put the work in. I think Kyrgios probably is putting the work in. He's got a lot of game. Why would he not want to give it another shot? But this is a guy who's talked about retiring, for years now. Anyways, quote, Kyrgios, Carlos Alcaraz makes me more excited about tennis. He's one person I want to face, and I want to give a good crack at him when I go back, because after it's all said and done. Hopefully, he is nice to me. Do you really, I don't know, does Kyrgios really want a piece of Alcaraz? Is that just, comment below, is he just talking S, as they say there? He's a commentator. He wants to sound cool. He wants to sound like, he's still got the confidence in his game to go up against anyone, but maybe deep down he knows he's done. I don't know. Anyways, moving on. Rafa news. One of my first predictions already coming true. I said, I don't think this is going to be super serious, and Rafa will be back fairly soon. I think he's going to play some more very high-level matches like we saw. And here's what we heard. Last I heard, the plan is for him to restart in Doha. A little bad luck there, because that was where Federer came back on his final year, where he never won anything again. But, maybe it's just coincidence. It's at the end of February. It's pretty soon. It's a few weeks after the Australian Open, so clearly the injury isn't that bad. He's going to manage it. That's from Laura Robson. Don't know what her source was, but hey, Raw fans, we're happy to hear it. This is what I was talking about. Before we go into the draw, Daily Mail, how the Australian Open's biggest problem reared its head on the first day of play as fans of one of the game's biggest stars are left disappointed. How are they going to make this work? The main issue here is that the ATP can make this rule, and it doesn't affect the Grand Slams. And that's why a lot of people think, tennis is a mess, and they need to figure out a way to join it all together. Some people are talking about Saudi Arabia. Tennis is somehow going to be controlled like golf by the Saudis. I don't know. I haven't looked too much into it, but we will keep an eye on it as those things progress. For now, the tennis tour is still the way it has been for many, many years, but there are changes coming. Anyways, let's look at this one change that they thought was coming, but it didn't. Sabalenka started her match at midnight. Rod Laver Arena only halfway full for the match, and the Grand Slam has a history of matches finishing very, very late. The Australian Open has already only started, but their scheduling issues have already become a problem. Defending women's champion Aryna Sabalenka stepping on the court at close to midnight. What a shame. She's waiting for that long Djokovic match to finish. The reigning champ's post-match press conference was canceled afterwards due to the late finish, which is sure to annoy fans who wanted to hear from the reigning champion. Oh, no. Scheduling requirements have been introduced by the WTA and ATP effective immediately in an attempt to cut down on late finishes, but tournament organizers at Melbourne Park are not bound by the new regulations. They said little could be done to prevent incidents like Andy Murray and Tanazi Kokinaki 4 in the morning finish from last year. The new rules will force night sessions to begin by 7:30 and prevent matches from going on court after 11. It will be trialed throughout 2024 at the tournaments before being reviewed at the end of the year. Like I said, changes are coming. They come slower, like we saw with the no lines people. I think we'll have them at Wimbledon one more time this year and then never again. Which, I guess it makes the game faster. But as you'll see later in this article, they've made the game slower somehow, despite all these things that were supposed to make the game faster and better for the ADD generations, millennials, and now whatever the next one is, Gen Z, the ones that say low key and stuff like that. And what else do they say? Well, Riz. They say things like that. Anyways, I'm not going to Riz on you here. That's not our thing. But anyways, they're supposed to have such poor, ability to focus on things. The iPad generation, the people who grew up with the iPad in their hand as babies. Are they going to be able to focus on these very long tennis matches? The whole idea was you're going to speed them up, but they're getting longer, as you will see. Anyways, they're going to try this thing out, along with trying to figure out how to make everyone play with the same ball. Good luck on that. They're going to try this thing out on the ATP WTA smaller tournaments throughout the year. And then maybe they'll be able to force the big four, the Australian, not Federer, Nadal, Murray, and Djokovic. The big four tournaments, Australian Open, French Open, U.S. Open, Wimbledon, they're going to be able to force them to do this at some point in the future, is at least what they're hoping to do. Anyways, the new rules, forced night sessions, blah, 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 blah. You got that. Where is it? The number of late finishes has risen. This is interesting to me. Has risen considerably in recent years, negatively impacting players and fans. This is tied to an increase in average match length on tour. And Novak Djokovic has come to save the day and suggest why that is. Also, let me point out the balls. When the balls are really slow, like right now, the Rod Laver Arena is playing pretty slow. It's very gritty. And it's mainly because of the ball. You know, it's gritty because they protect that court. Other courts get played on more for practice. They protect that court before the tournament starts to have limited, court time on it. And so it's grittier, which does make it slower. But I think the main thing, and this is what they were talking about the last couple of years too, the main thing is the ball is bad. It's a crappy Dunlop ball. Everyone who plays tennis hates Dunlop balls. Even like low-level beginner players usually have figured out pretty quick that Dunlop is the worst ball to get. So they have this terrible Dunlop ball, and on the grittier court, it's getting roughed up more, and it's expanding, right? It's fluffing up, as the players like to say, and that's making the ball play pretty slow. So I would say that's one thing that's slowing it down, because it's just making rallies longer on average. But look, I understand the motivation, says Djokovic, to improve the experience for fans. But we do play for fans, but we want fans to have a great time, thrilling experience, blah, blah, blah. But it's hard, I got to say. I understand that, and I support it to some extent, but at the same time, all my career, all my life, we've been used to some kind of atmosphere that changes, it messes up, and distracts you a bit, and it slows things down, is what he's going to go on to say. Now, what is he talking about? Sorry, I should have mentioned what Djokovic was actually talking about. To make things more fun for the fans, because in the old days, you go get a beer, you go to use the bathroom. If you go back and it's not a changeover, they bring a rope across and you can't sit down. I'm sorry for everyone who knows about this, but somebody out there probably doesn't know what we're talking about, so I got to explain it. So they put a rope out. You can't cross the rope. Then when there's a changeover, they open it, and you have, a minute, 90 seconds to get in there and grab a seat. That's how tennis has always been for a long, long time. So now they're starting to open it up. I've seen it last year a little bit too. You can walk in whenever. And the players, most of them, are not going to serve. They're bouncing the ball. There's a guy like right there moving around. I don't want to serve the ball and see that and miss a forehand and be down, love 15 to start my game. So I'm just going to wait till everyone's seated. Because of that, this is what Djokovic is talking about here. It's slowing things down. Says Novak, today we lost quite a bit of time when they were letting people in to come into their seats. Even though it was not a changeover, my opponent would wait for them to sit down, and it dragged a lot. I don't know if it's really the best rule, but I do understand from a tournament and fan perspective, it's probably better because they don't want to wait. They want to come out and enjoy every single point. So, what do you think? Do comment below. Do you enjoy this when you go to a tournament? The freedom to come in and go as you please. I'm okay with what they were doing in Cincinnati. If you're sitting so high up that the players don't really notice you, you can move around, come and go whenever you want. If you're lower and the players will see you, they don't let you come in anymore. They still have the ropes. I think that's the only way to do it. If your goal, you got to pick one, guys. If your goal here is to speed up the matches for the ADD Gen Zers, the Rizzers, if you want to do that, if you want to slow it down for them or speed it up for them, then don't do things like this. And more things making the players mad, but designed to help the fans want to come here. Front Office Sports, Australian Open's efforts to attract more fans is irking some players. The Australian Open has attracted more than 80,000 fans in each of the first 2 days, so they're doing pretty good. Courtside bar is making some players uncomfortable during matches. As the Australian Open moves into the second round of play, the first Grand Slam of 2024 is already on pace to break the attendance record it set last year. In fact, they've already had 170,000 fans. This is written before day 3 of play. So after 2 days of play. So that puts them at like 250,000, maybe somewhere around there now. They think they're going to get to 1 million fans. So maybe some of these things they're trying out is working pretty well. 2023 all-time high of 839,000 spectators watched the Australian Open in person. Hitting 1 million will be a pretty big improvement on that only a year later. But Mrs. Cat is somewhere around me, making noise and making me crazy. Some new offerings may be contributing to the added attraction are not sitting well with the players. This year, Court 6, I guess is where Tsitsipas played, at Melbourne Park, a 2-story courtside bar can house 400 people, and the atmosphere is noticeably more raucous than normal because it has a DJ. It has a DJ, and you can hear it on the court during the points all the time. Tsitsipas said, the DJ and stuff, it was somewhere in my subconscious. We know a lot of things are in Steph's subconscious, where I could feel the movement and all that kind of action going on. They're like dancing. He can feel it. But okay, that's a bad dance. Stefanos Tsitsipas said, I'm not a huge fan of it. Djokovic went on to say, and then they talk about the seating policy. Then they go on to say this is the longest Grand Slam ever, and that they're loving it so much. John McEnroe called this a money grab. They're loving it so much. If you didn't know, it's 15 days now instead of 14. They love it so much they might start on Saturday next year and make it a 16-day Grand Slam. I mean, giving them 3 full weekends of play. Am I doing the math right on that? 3 full weekends of play? Yeah. It's not a bad idea. It is good for the fans. But do comment below. Do you like the slams getting longer? I felt weird. I'm used to taking in so many matches in the first couple days and having it spread out to 3 days. Felt a little weird to me. I don't know. Maybe we had more good matches to look forward to. They spaced them out. All right, let's go to the draw, and then we'll do some comments and get out of here. I thought Novak Djokovic looked good. Comment below if you're worried for him. He had that long match. I think that's only a good thing. And with the extra day they're adding, it gave him plenty of time to recover if the wrist was an issue at all. Didn't seem to be. I thought Dino, the dinosaur, he played outstanding. I am 12 for 16 in that Djokovic quarter. I'm 11 for 16 in the bottom Sinners quarter. In Rooney's quarter, I'm 12 for 16. In Zverev Alcaraz's quarter, I am also 12 for 16. No disrespect to Meds. It is Meds' quarter on top. And Rune would be the secondary quarter holder. I would say Alcaraz's quarter on the bottom, with Zverev being the secondary quarter holder. Anyways, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I did not make many mistakes. I like how Djokovic's draw looks still. Ben Shelton, it was very impressive. And I still like Djokovic to win it all. Nothing really changed from what we've seen so far. Big Papa is in the second round as predicted. It's a different skill set. I thought Dino Prismic, so talented, showed that he could do everything. The only thing was his second serve. He's going to need to develop that better. Big Papa is going to come in with a big serve for Djokovic to check out. Monfils came through. Andy Murray did not come through. I heard Darren Cahill saying that Sinner and Murray were practicing, and Murray looked incredible, and he said Murray looks like he's not feeling as good. Another guy who said it might be his last. Gasquet might be playing his last one here, and Murray said that as well. We've heard Murray say things like that before after a loss that pisses him off. Anyways, he said Murray, something must have happened to him because in the match that Cahill was commentating on, and he'd just seen him, days before practicing with Sinner. He said he looks 70% of what I just saw. His movement, 70% of what it was a few days ago. So I don't know what happened to Murray. Stan looked good. Hasn't played yet in real matches. Such a good year last year. He was coming back and looking the best he's looked since he'd been gone with all the injuries. Last year, Stanimal did. And now, I wanted him to beat Manarino. I thought surely he won't lose 3 in a row. Manarino's a tough matchup for Stan's game, especially on a hard court. I think on a clay court it'd be easier. It'd be faster hard courts. Manarino can take advantage of the speed of the court to make up for not having the power, and he can redirect some stand power too. But I think on clay that'd be a little harder to do. Anyways, this isn't clay, obviously. Stan, the wheels fell off. There's no better way to put it. Stan just looked like he had nothing left in the 5th set, and I think it was a bagel. Anyways, all my wrong matches here, they're almost all 5-set matches, so I feel pretty good about this draw so far. And Shevchenko, I was wrong. It was Jaume Munar. That's a shock. The Spanish Jerry Seinfeld comes through. Chris O'Connell comes through over Garin. Correct. Ben Shelton looked good. Roberto Batista Agut, I thought, gave him a good test. Not the easiest draw for the first round. Lots of points to defend here. This is where Ben Shelton, I think, made quarterfinals last year, so it was his big breakthrough. A little nerves, you would think. And it did look a little nervy in the first set. But he still won him. I think he won in straight sets. He looked really good from everything I saw. I watched a good bit of that match, actually. And there was some good rallies, as you would expect from RBA. But Ben Shelton, Kyrgios was saying, the next day, I think that was the first night when Ben Shelton played. Was it? No, it doesn't matter. I can't remember. But when McEnroe and Kyrgios were together, Kyrgios was saying, I think Ben Shelton could maybe beat Djokovic here. And I really like Ben Shelton. I think he's very promising for the future. Kyrgios agrees. There were some interesting questions out. Johnny Mac was asking Kyrgios, in Laver Cup, Johnny Mac's the captain. Also was announced this will be his last year captaining this year in Berlin. He was saying, Ben Shelton was saying, hey, I can hit that 140 serve and grab my left arm because he's a lefty. I can hit that 140 serve, but man, my arm's hurt, and I don't want to hit that 140 serve. I don't have to, but sometimes people expect it, so I gotta rev it up. And he was asking Kyrgios, how do you manage that? Do you feel like, sometimes you're hurting, your shoulder's sore, but you got to come up with those 140 mile an hour bombs? And Kyrgios said, honestly, especially if you're playing someone like Djokovic, some of these guys can return so well. So many guys on tour can return Djokovic light. He says you got to really vary the speeds. You can't let them get keyed up. If you're hitting 140 and Djokovic catches that ball and redirects that power at you, it's coming back just as fast. Like there's nothing you're going to be able to do with it. So I thought Johnny Mac was fair to point out, like, okay, but if you hit your spot with 140, right? If you put it in the corner at 140, is Djokovic really going to get that? I don't think anybody's going to get that, said Johnny Mac. And Kyrgios said, well, let's put it this way, mate. I was hitting my spots. I was serving on average 222 kilometers. That's 130 something in miles per hour at Wimbledon in the final against Djokovic. And I was getting 70% of my first serves in, and I got broken like 4 times and lost. McEnroe said, fair point, mate. Fair point. Anyways, I like Big Ben. I still think he will come through. Maybe Manarino waiting in that third round. O'Connell, this is not too tough. Obviously, that's going to happen when he plays Djokovic, very likely. I think it'll be a good match. I think Shelton will work Djokovic, make him really work for it. So I'm looking forward to that. Taylor Fritz came through. Gojo came through. Or I don't think it was actually him. I think it was a lucky loser. I think he got replaced, but that person won, so I'm taking the win. I'm taking credit. Cilic. All right, Fabian Marozsan. It's pretty good. Maybe I shouldn't have made that pick, but I want to, I love going with these old guys. And Cilic, he showed under pressure, coming up with aces, coming up with big serves, making the forehands when he needed them. He showed why he's a Grand Slam champion, but kind of like with Stan, I guess worse than with Stan, because, at least Stan, he had a smaller injury. Cilic had some really rough time last year. The movement was not there, especially as the match got on. If Cilic was able to get a great return in or start off with a good serve, he could control the point and win. But when he fell behind in a rally, he really had no chance because of the movement. So I'm wrong there. Good thing I didn't pick him to beat Steph in the 4th round. I was thinking Cilic was going to show up really fit, but movement's not there yet. Bad call. Dane Sweeney put in a good match against Cerundolo, but I knew, even though Cerundolo hasn't played in a little while, I thought, Cerundolo's too good, this Dane Sweeney guy. He threw everything he had at him. He was really like redlining his game the whole time, and Cerundolo found a way. I think he won in 5. Musetti came through. Luca van Arslau came through over Ducky. I got Musetti coming through, but I really like that Arslau, Belgian. I think he's Belgian. I think he's a Dutch-speaking Belgian guy. Anyways, Vukic, Tomo came through over Vukic. Berrettini did not play, obviously. We talked about that earlier. Steph came through and looked, I guess he looked good enough. He didn't panic, as Kyrgios was pointing out. He drops that first set, and he said the good thing Kyrgios thought was that Steph didn't panic, and he knew, there's no way this guy was going to beat him in the long run, and he's going to outlast him. And he sure did. Made that guy look pretty tore up. Zubergs, whatever his name was. Sinner looked good against the Boatman. That was a fun match to watch. The Boatman, it's so funny watching him. He's this big guy, and then he plays like Rafa with the buggy whip forehand fall through over his head. It's rare you see him finish a forehand here. And then he plays a big man tennis, but then he rallies like Rafa, like he wants to get into a grind with you and just not miss, so he can swing hard and put enough spin to not miss anything and just wait for you to give him a big opportunity. He needed to do more than that. He should have been falling through here a little bit more with Sinner. That didn't work out, but it was a fun match. There was a moment in that match where I thought, Sinner's legs are gone. He's gonna cramp again, like we've seen so many times. So that's why I just don't see Sinner beating Djokovic here, unless Djokovic's wrist literally falls off. Jesper de Jong, another Nederlander, is going to be playing Sinner. Still get him coming through, no problem. Daniel Alahi Galan he won. I was wrong on this one, but it was in 5 sets. Kubel Doubles almost came through. JJ Wolf, I was wrong there. He got injured. Can't fault me for that. TFO comes through. The lucky loser beats Thomas Mashak. I was right about that. Tabila lost after winning that tournament. I was right about that. Kachanov won. No. I still like Kachanov to come through the section. Demon won. Milos Raonic, I think he won the first set, and then Raonic fell apart. Didn't take 5 sets for his wheels to fall off like with Stan. Arnaldi beat Walton. I was wrong on these next two. Rinner Kaneshi lost in 5. Nicholas Yari lost in 5. Korda barely won in 5, and I almost picked him to get upset. I picked Korda to get upset a lot, and I'm usually right. I didn't trust my instincts that time, and I thought, Korda better come through here. Lloyd Harris lost. I was wrong about that. I think that was 4 sets, but I think there was a couple tie breaks, so that's almost like 5 sets. Chris Eubanks came through. Taro Daniel had just been in that New Zealand final. Rublev came through barely. A very angry Rublev comes through in 5. Maybe Korda, a little opportunity to come through here. One thing they were saying, I had a Dutch friend, half Dutch friend I was watching that match with. And it was funny, we were watching Sinner, and at one point he got, almost offended. He said, what are those guys dressed in orange? They're mocking Botic. They're mocking Van de Zand Schulp. He had to coach me on how to say Schulp. Anyways, he said, they're mocking him by wearing the orange. I was like, no, yo, those are the Kuroda boys. They're carrots. They're for Sinner. He's like, oh, okay. It's Dutch guys. Don't offend their culture. Don't mock the orange, which I didn't even know about that until the World Cup. That's when I realized that the Dutch are into the orange thing. Anyways, but my Dutch friend, the reason why I bring it up is the commentators kept saying Rublev is very one-dimensional. And he's like, okay, well, Rublev's awesome, and I'm sick of hearing you guys talk trash about Rublev. And then it made me think about Tsitsipas. Remember what he said? Rublev was able to defeat me with his limited tools. Maybe he is a little bit one-dimensional. But when you can hit it that hard and go, blah, you can do the blah. Why do anything else? I'd be one-dimensional too. All right, moving on to the bottom half. Holger Rune came through. Like Sinner, Holger Rune can be a little crampy in those legs, and it looked like it was starting to happen, but he survived. The nice French fellow who colonized that Nouvelle-Calédonie, Cazot, he won. Good for him. Arthur Fils, he won. Another Frenchman. This is a good time for the French, other than Gasquet. Safoulin. I've been picking Talon Griekspoor in every draw I make for a couple years now to win, unless he's playing some top player that he should lose to. Anyone else, I pick him to win. He won in 5. I went against him this time just because the Roman Safoulin Russian guy, you ain't Safoulin me. I guess he did Safoul me. He looked good. He was the hot hand, I thought, so I gave it to him. But don't go against Talon Griekspoor, another orange Dutch guy. I was wrong on David Goffin. Sometimes I'm just attached to these guys from the past, I think. I knew deep down I should have went with Hugo Humbert. I thought Hugo Humbert was had an injury recently himself or wasn't playing much in the preseason. I don't know. I should have done a little more research on what Hugo Humbert had been up to. He handled it in 4. Zhixin Zhang, he won, as predicted here. Shapo, called it. Minchik, never heard of the guy. But I thought, you know what? I have no faith in Shapo anymore. I haven't had faith in Shapo for a while. Maybe he'll get it back one day. I watched a lot of that match, actually. And, it was the same old Shapo we've been seeing for years, El Shapo. Hitting some great shots, and then shot selection, just like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? I could go out there and do a better job on choosing what shot to hit. Any of us could. Mrs. Cat could. And she's a baby. Anyways. Good call on Matt. Hooby Dooby came through. Grigor came through and looked awesome. I thought it was a tough match. Marty Fucsovics didn't look awesome the whole time. There was a moment where it was like, ooh, some nerves for Grigor. But he came through and he looked as good playing on that court as he looks in his underwear. I like him to keep going and lose to Meds as predicted before. Kaki Naki came through in 5. That will be nice for Dimitrov, who only had to play in 4. Martyr did not win, and it was a straight sets match, I think. That was one of my few wrong ones that weren't 5. Alejandro Davidovich, Fakina, as some say. He came through. Dominic Thiem, I wanted him to win. He lost in 5. Felix Auger did look pretty good in the end of that, but it was a good match, actually, from what I saw of it. Nice battle. Not like that final with Zverev at the U.S. Open where they both were taking turns doing Puppenpansen. Hugo Grenier came through. Savori came through. Watch out, Meds. Meds had a tougher match. than we would have predicted in the first round. And then he's going to play Ruud Savory. A little danger there. I still like Meds to come through, of course, but little danger there. Zverev looked good, but dropped a set. I mean, pretty much all the top guys dropped a set. Alcaraz didn't, but he had a tiebreak in the first set against Gasquet. You wouldn't expect him to go to a close tiebreak. Sunu Kwan went down. I picked the qualifier. I was correct. Mickelson came through. This tall U.S. guy, I like him. Leheshka came through. Cam Snorri came through. Lajovic. Snorri, is he still injured? I wonder how his wrist is feeling. I haven't looked. Lajovic lost to a qualifier. That should help Cam Snorri go to the third round and lose to Ruud with his messed up wrist, as I've predicted. Max Purcell came through. Ruud came through, obviously. Tommy Paul, TP. Marcus Giron, I believe, lost in 5. It was close. I thought it'd be close, but Draper won. I get it. Draper threw up afterwards. Kecmanovic came through. Rinky Dinky went down. Jan Leonard Struffy's through. He won. Bublik, way off. 3 sets. Got his ass kicked, as they say. Sumit Nagal. Remember when he played, I think he played Federer? Who was he playing? They're like, that's not Nadal, folks. I know you want to see Fed Nadal, but that's Nagal. Anyways, Indian fans of tennis, very happy. Bublik smashed a racket in that match and went down in 3. That's probably the biggest shock in this draw I've seen so far. Mackie Smacky McDonald lost in 5. I got that one wrong. Dirty Dan lost in 4. I got that one wrong. Dirty Dan wasn't totally healthy, but, this court's good for him usually, so I thought he could pull it off. And Alcaraz will play Sonego next after he beat Gasquet. So that's where it stands. I'm pretty happy with my picks. Let's go to a couple comments. Hit the music because we're going to get out of here. Djokovic will be back tonight. We will be back tomorrow to talk about our second round matches. But first, let's look at some of these comments. Sebastian says, finally, another coffee break tennis. Matt, we missed you and your fantastic humor and tennis whip and your multilingualism and your energy. Stoked to have you back. Appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you for noticing the multilingualism. Aki Kaki said, I see, Matt, I click, but this is the lamest tennis show around. The lamest? It's like Donald. That's kind of how like Donald Trump talks. This is the lamest tennis show around. The lamest. Why? Inconsistent, random, deceiving. Matt, you're a gem, but come on, buddy. Who are we fooling? Sit your ass down every week and report or post randomly whenever, but make it memorable and topical. That's the way it is. It's just pretending the way it is. I'm sorry I didn't do more shows last year. I would like to. The bottom line for me is, I make a lot more money teaching tennis. I make more money from playing music with my band than I do from all of my coffee break tennis endeavors. And guess what? That takes a lot more hours to actually do than what I do with the band. It's really hard to do this. The Australian Open, the French, the majors. That's why I make the most videos during those times, because I get so excited. It's hard not to do it, but it is very demanding. It takes a lot of work. I usually do really well with Wimbledon and Australian Open because things slow down. In January, there's not many tennis lessons. I teach a lot of tennis in schools. Not everyone's back in time in January to do it yet. Wimbledon, there is no school. Sometimes I do tennis camps and things like that in the summer, but usually I have a lot of free time during Wimbledon. So it also works for my schedule with the majors, but also that's where I'm the most motivated because it is a lot of work. It is a thankless job making YouTube videos. Sometimes it feels like people don't realize how many hours you have to spend editing videos or just, I love watching tennis, but if you want to talk about these things and not sound like an idiot, you got to watch a lot of tennis. Anyways, next one. This is the best tennis channel. The others are unbearable, and Matt was mourning his weak era here from FG92626. Yeah, I guess Federer is the weak era hero. Glenn Sandalius, an OG commentator, in the comment section below. Join him and be a commentator yourself. Hey, Matt, New Caledonia is an island off Queensland, the state where Brisbane is. Yeah, it's a French dependency. They're self-governing, though, and they definitely speak the French there. I'll have to visit Nouvelle-Calédonie. Anyways, thanks for joining us today. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about the second rounds. See ya!